everyone, it has been a while since I've been on here, and I wanted to film a real quick video as a reintroduction to me and my channel because I would really like to spend more time uploading book videos to my YouTube this year. So my name is Callie. I'm a homeschool mom to 5 kids. I live with my family in the mountains, and I do love to read. I've read since I was very young. I've been a bookworm for a long time, and I like to talk about books. It's a little weird to me still to talk to a camera about books instead of talking with people who also read, but I'd like to stretch myself this year and try to post more videos on this channel. So bear with me as I kind of go through this awkward phase of trying to figure out how to speak to a camera. But anyway, for this first video, I thought I would like to just share with you my currently reading list. I am one of those people who reads a lot of books at once. I feel like sometimes there's good things about that and sometimes not so great things, but as is typical, I do have quite a few books going right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show them all to you now. So the first one is Brandt is in the Wind. This is a book I've been working on for a while. It's basically Christian reflections on art and different famous art pieces, and I'm just learning a lot about it. I've never been that into art, and so to read more about different paintings and sculptures and things that I didn't know that much about, and especially about the artists that created them, it's been really interesting and educational for me. So I'm really enjoying this one. I started reading it partly because I know I'm probably going to have my oldest read this when he enters high school next year. And so I wanted to get a head start on it so I know what he's reading, and it's been really enriching for me. So that's the first one. Okay, the next book I'm working through is Atypical Woman by Abigail Dodds. I got this from Crossway Publishers for free for a review, and so I'm slowly working through it. I take a long time to get through books that I'm reviewing sometimes, but this has been really rich and really thought-provoking, and it's one of those books that I think you probably want to read slow, but really enjoying it. It's just thoughts about being a Christian woman, and about how we're Christians first, not that our Christianity is qualified by our womanhood, if that makes sense. So anyway, it's been really good so far. Okay, next one is really very crunchy. I am doing a couple book challenges this year, and one of the ones I'm doing has a category about reading a book on health or nutrition, which is not a category that I enjoy reading very much. So I was trying to find a book that I felt like I could find interesting, even though it's not my typical genre to read. But this one has been really good. I follow this gal's Instagram, and she just kind of pokes fun at crunchy moms, but also moms who aren't crunchy, and it's been a fun account to follow. So I thought her book would probably be more of the same, and it's been a little different than I thought, but I am enjoying it. And it's not too, like, it doesn't produce guilt in me for all the things I'm not doing, if that makes sense, but gives me ideas for different ways to maybe tweak things to be a little bit more healthy and things like that. So it's been good so far. Okay, the next one I'm working on is A Woman Underground by Andrew Klavan. I have read all the books in the series so far. I think this is the 4th one. It follows Cameron Winter is the main character. He's an English professor, but he used to be like a secret agent for some government agency, and kind of an assassin for that agency. And so every now and then he'll get pulled back into another mystery, I guess you would call it, or some sort of mission that he has to complete. So it's been really good. In this one, he is trying to find a girl that he loved when he was a child, but she kind of got into a bad crowd and he lost track of her, and then he stumbles across this book that he is pretty sure is written about the girl that he used to love, and so he's trying to track her down because this book seems to indicate that something terrible happened to her. So anyway, it's been really interesting so far. I've really liked all the books in the series. There is a little bit of adult content, I would say, in it, and then definitely violence, but it's been an interesting series, and I just feel like the characters are really rich and interesting characters, so that's been something I've enjoyed in this. So this is the one I'm working on, one of only a couple fiction ones I'm working on right now. Okay, this is where I get into the heavy hitters and my big goals for the year with reading, because this year, one of my goals, which like I said, I'd like to do another video about my goals, so I won't go too in depth here, but one of my goals for reading this year is to just kind of up the quality of my reading, because I tend to read a decent amount of books every year. I read usually over 52 books a year, so averaging more than one a week, but I'm not always super satisfied with the books that I end up having on my list at the end of the year, and I'd like to include books that are just a little more dense, if that makes sense, a little bit more meaty. So this year I decided to pick up Paradise Lost. This is another one that I feel like my soon-to-be high schooler will be reading at some point, and I figured I should try to read it if I'm going to require him to read it. So this has been really interesting so far. I've only just started it. I'm into book 2, and I forget how many books there are even in Paradise Lost. There are 12 books within this book. Books, as in like they just split up these epic poems into books. So I finished book 1. I'm halfway into book 2 of the poem, and there's 12 of them. So it's going to be a long read. It's definitely not an easy read. It takes me a lot to understand what's going on. Excuse me. Sometimes I have to reread lines several times to kind of get the gist of what's happening, but it's well worth the effort so far. Like, I've found some really interesting thoughts and meaty things in here. And if you don't know what Paradise Lost is about, it's basically the book starts out right after Satan fell from his position in heaven, but before God created humankind. So, and it kind of starts out with Satan with the demons in hell kind of plotting on how to thwart God's plans. But it's really interesting where the author interjects and tells how obviously that's going to be impossible, but they still think that they can. So I don't know, it's been interesting and thought-provoking to me so far, but I'm looking forward to continuing to try to work through this year, but it's going to be a challenge, and this is one that will probably be on my currently reading list for a long time. Okay, the other heavier book I'm reading is the Iliad. I've just finished book 2 in this. Once again, there's like quite a few books within the book. I believe there's 24 in this. So it's going to take me a while to get through it. Once again, my high schooler might be reading part of this next year because we'll be doing ancient history. So I wanted to get an idea of what he would be reading and kind of mark out things that I want him to read, or, you know, sections that maybe he could skip. Like, I had a whole section in this second book here that was just names of people who are going to fight the Trojans. So I'm like, I don't need you to really struggle through that section necessarily, but there's a lot of the story involved in it so far. The story is just getting going, and it's been really good. So I know somewhat about the story of the Iliad, but I've never read the actual poem, and I guess these Fitzgerald translations are pretty easy to read. They're supposed to be easier than maybe some other translations, and I'm finding it pretty easy to read so far. So I'm enjoying this. Sorry, I had to take a pause. So this is the next one I'm working on Writing Well by William Zinsser. It's another one I'm reading for our homeschool because my kids will probably read this in high school, and it's been really good so far, really educational as far as how to improve writing. Writing something I've done on a blog for like 15 years now, and so this is just giving me a lot to think about how to improve my writing, and maybe some bad habits I've picked up here and there. So anyway, I'm learning a lot. I think this will be great for my kids to read when they're in high school. I can't wait to see how I think of it when I've finished it, because I'm not that far into it. But yes, another homeschool read inspired by homeschooling. So a lot of books that I read are influenced, or my TBR is influenced, I guess I should say, by the fact that I am a homeschool mom. So this is another one of those. Okay. This is a book that a friend recommended to me because we had been talking about Dracula, because I read Dracula a few years back and enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And she said that if you want like a book that's related to Dracula, or, you know, vampire legends that doesn't have a lot of the junk that a lot of modern vampire books have in it, that this would be one to check out. And so I picked it up, and I am enjoying it so far. It's somewhat of an epistolary novel. It's told as a story that a father is telling to his daughter, partly through letters, partly in person, and just a lot of travel in this book. They go to a lot of different places, and the descriptions of the places they travel are just really beautiful, and it's beautifully written. So I'm really enjoying it so far. There are some pretty graphic descriptions of violence, scattered here and there as they're researching this man in history who they think is like Dracula. So anyway, it's pretty good if you like history or like travel related books or Dracula. You might enjoy this one, but I'm enjoying it. Okay, and last book that I'm reading lately is Tombstone by Tom Clavin. I can't remember where I came across this author. Maybe it was recommended on a blog or something like that, but I rented an ebook from the library just to kind of decide if I thought his books were worth reading, and found that his style seemed really engaging to me. And the Old West is a topic that I'm trying to read more about, just because I find it interesting and I want to dive into it a little bit more this year. So I'm going to read this one, and I'm a few chapters into it, and it is really good and written really well. This one's specifically about the Earp brothers and the shootout at OK Corral and all that. So it started out really well, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. Okay, and that's it for today. Those are all the books I'm reading right now. It seems like a lot when I just list it all out for you right now. There's even a couple more I'm reading here and there, but I didn't include them in this video. I am, like I said, one of those people who reads multiple books at once, and sometimes I think that's good and sometimes I think it's not great, but this is where we are. So anyway, thanks for checking out my channel again. Thanks for bearing with me as I get used to speaking to a camera again, and I hope you stick around. All right.